So, they're trying to play this game. MSNBC and Fox News, they both pretend, and CNN, they pretend that the Democrats and the Republicans are different. And there's, what did Ralph Nader say? The only difference between a Democrat and a Republican is the speed at which their knee hits the floor when a corporate donor enters the room. And I'm going to say that's not even true anymore, but oftentimes it's exactly the same speed. So the Democratic Party is completely corrupted. That's a big focus of this show. And people say, why don't you spend more time focusing on Republicans? And I'm like, I saw somebody say this on Twitter. It said, I don't criticize the Democrats because I side with Republicans. I criticize Democrats because they side with Republicans. So, meaning that they're all corporatists. And that's why you don't have health care. That's why you don't have a living wage. That's why they can spend $1 trillion on bombs, and you don't get to have an education. You don't get to go to school. And so we live in a complete oligarchy. We don't live in a democracy. But anyway, well, listen to this garbage. Hey, let me get. I know I have some jokes for this, right? Okay, here we go.
And around oligarchy, Kurt. I mean, this is a global movement that wants to have a small group of very, very rich people free to do as they please, and they've got like a sort of vanguard of broke people just on the front lines.
Wait a minute. Now, you would think, is she calling out the military-industrial complex and corporate media who have a vanguard of broke people fighting endless imperial wars? Because that's what that sounds like. I mean, because if she is, she summed it up perfectly. But no, she means something completely different. Sorry, I should have said spoiler alert first, but a small group of very rich people. I think she's talking about anyone who still watches MSNBC. Here we go.
That's exactly right, Joy. And it's kind of the frustrating thing from a pure messaging standpoint. If you want to contrast the difference between the two political parties in this country, one party is for the rich. One party is using that power, that wealth.
Just the one party. Kurt, just the one party is for the rich. The other party is for the little guy. Did you know that Joe Biden is for the little guy, which is why he immediately implemented his campaign promises
of nothing will fundamentally change.
Of nothing will fundamentally change. I mean, his campaign promises of a $15 minimum wage, a health care public option, reducing student debt, also rescheduling marijuana, all that stuff. Oh, he didn't do it. He didn't do any of it. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, not one. And the one good thing he did was get out of Afghanistan. That's when they turn on him. It's just one good move.
We're down to one. We're down to just one party, Kurt. We're down to just one party that sticks up for the super wealthy. Isn't that something? Oh my God! Did the other party that represent rich people die of COVID or something? That's really sad that kids in America are going to grow up with only one party representing the super rich. Isn't that something?
That's exactly right, Joy. And it's kind of the frustrating thing from a pure messaging standpoint. If you want to contrast the difference between the two political parties in this country, one party is for the rich. One party is using that power, that wealth, to try to suppress the other classes of people in this country. And the people who would benefit the most, this is the irony of it all, the people who would benefit the most from Democrat policies are these middle American people, are these farmers.
It's weird that they would benefit from those Democrat policies that the Democrats won't implement when they have complete power. I live in California. The Democrats have a supermajority in the legislature, and they have a Democratic governor. They can do whatever they want. Republicans can't stop them. Guess what? We don't have health care in California. We don't have a living wage. We don't have anything in fucking California, but we do have fracking permits. We do have income inequality. We do have homelessness, people living under every bridge. We do have all of that. We have economic insecurity. And we have supermajority Democrats. They could do whatever they want. So this idea that the Democrats' policies that they state would help people, they don't implement them when they get power. Fuckface.
You look at the type of relief that was doled out by Donald Trump and Republicans in 2020, it was tax breaks for rich people.
Correct me if I'm wrong. No, this is off the top of my head. Didn't Donald Trump give more COVID relief direct payments to people than Joe Biden? Didn't Joe Biden promise $2,000 and gave you $1,400?
Yeah, right. I don't know what Trump gave more.
What did Trump give?
Like,
Did Trump only give 600? What did he give? I gotta look that up.
Yeah.
It was tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. The average person, the people that they try to hold up and prop up all the time, they don't stand a chance in their worldview. And it's the ultimate con.
I always say, watch what they've done. Rachel Maddow says all the time, watch what they do, not what they say. What did Trump actually accomplish legislatively when he was president?
So that's a good question. By the way, I just want to show Peter Thiel, money man for MAGA candidates. There's just the one. There's just the one guy. He's the money man for conservative causes. First of all, I'm pretty sure that's the name of a super PAC. Money men for conservative causes. Isn't that a name of a super PAC? Secondly, great reporting on one money man out of, I don't know, 5 million or so money men who control everything, right? Because that's what control. We're controlled by a handful of billionaires. All the media is controlled by a handful of billionaires, and so are the politicians. A handful of them. And but Peter Thiel, he's the money man. They exposed him. They got Peter Thiel paid for, and you know how this investigation into Peter Thiel was paid for by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Only on Microsoft NBC. Microsoft News. It's not news. It's Microsoft News. So she said don't look what they say. You should look what they do. Well, let's look what they did. Biden calls for the raise of the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Did he do it? Boom. Biden faces questions about commitment. So no, he didn't. So Joy-Ann Reid says, look at what they do, not what they say. We're looking at what they do. Here's what Biden proposes massive new Obamacare subsidies, public option and healthcare plan. Did he do it? Public option plan left out of Biden budget. They're not doing it. Isn't that weird? Flashback. Obama repeatedly touted public option before refusing to push it for the final hours. The same story. That was over a decade ago. They're still doing the same thing. Hey, tracking Biden's campaign promises 1 year in. Let's do that for Joy-Ann Reid. Let's track them. Biden has taken no significant action on several criminal justice reform promises, including decriminalizing marijuana, ending cash bail, ending mandatory minimum sentences. Biden hasn't kept his promise to forgive student loan debt from public colleges and universities, while Biden has enacted a pause on student loans due to the pandemic and made some smaller efforts to forgive the debts of certain categories of borrowers. He did not push to conclude full or even partial forgiveness in his Build Back Better bill. Another student-related promise to make 2 years of community college or high-quality training program tuition-free, that was also left out. Isn't that something? Obama's big sellout. The president has packed his economic team with Wall Street insiders. I thought that was the Republicans. I thought the Republicans were the ones who did that. Barack Obama packed his economic team with Wall Street. The president has packed his economic team with Wall Street insiders intent on turning the bailout into an all-out giveaway to big business.
Which they did.
Which they did. I thought that was what the Republicans do, Joy-Ann Reid. I thought that's what they did. Let's see what else. And what if you do that? So if you pack your economic team with Wall Street insiders, what's the reward? The reward is you get to buy a mansion on Martha's Vineyard worth $11.75 million. And I'm pretty sure that's a 48-acre. Is that 30 acres? I've heard 30 acres. I've heard 48 acres. I'll go with 30. So, it's a 30.
So how much of the tip of that little peninsula there is the affordable housing section of?
Yeah. And so that's just so you know. And here is just so you know, Joy-Ann Reid's salary at MSNBC $1.5 million per year. But the Republicans are the people of the. By the way, top Biden aides cashed in on Wall Street after Obama's service. I thought it was just Republicans who did that stuff, Joy-Ann Reid, you liar. So, yes, maybe we didn't keep most of it. Maybe the Democrats didn't keep most of it or all of their promises about things that really do affect you. But they did try to get the most popular podcaster in the world canceled. So that's something. Isn't that something? So more bullshit propaganda from Joy-Ann. So this is the game. They want you to pretend, they're pretending, and they want you to believe that there is two different parties that are beholden to two different groups of people. There is not two different parties beholden to two different groups of people. There is one party. It is the money party, and that's why you don't have health care, a living wage, you're dying in student debt, and 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. That's why, because both parties genuflect to this oligarchy and the establishment corporate money. They're both bought by the military-industrial complex. You know who wins every election? Goldman Sachs. Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, big pharma, health insurance companies, and big tech. They all win. Oh, and the oil companies. They all win every election. You know who loses every election? Workers.
They take the money to make commercials about your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I like the guy said from a purely messaging standpoint, this is frustrating.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel. They're purely messaging, and it's frustrating to me that they don't do a single goddamn thing that they say they're going to do if it will help you.
Yeah, from a pure messaging standpoint. That is what that guy said. It's frustrating from a pure messaging standpoint. Because that's all they have, Kurt. Very well put. Very well put. We're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles on February 12th, February 18th, February 20th. We're in Philadelphia. We just added a second show. And back on February 26th here in Los Angeles. It's our intimate 60-seat theater. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link. And then while you're there, you can also become a premium member, get access to all our stuff.